Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right from the studios of KPFT 90.1 FM, Houston, your community radio station. We have a great program for you today. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about the water problems in Jackson, Mississippi, and beyond. We're going to talk about all these issues in the right light. Look, folks, stick with us. And by the way, guess what's coming pretty darn soon? We're moving into our new abode. So get ready for us coming live and taking calls. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right, directly and live from, guess where? Pittsburgh, PA, Netroots Nation 2022. I am honored today because you know how we love Free Speech TV. It's a company that I tell you all the time, we have to keep afloat, right? And guess who I have today? The leader, the president. What's your title, sir?
So my official title is General Manager.
The General Manager of Free Speech TV.
Yes.
Rafael Espinosa.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I mean, thank you.
Yeah, just fixing that for you.
I appreciate that, my brother. Look, let me tell you first of all, I am so happy that you're here because I think it is important that we have an independent press.
Yes.
That is out there to tell the stories the way it really is. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I just started at Free Speech TV in May of this year. I come from corporate media, and after I left corporate media I worked in corporate media for over 20 years.
Right.
I got into the nonprofit organization and in the space, working in the environmental advocacy space, where I was working for a statewide organization in Colorado called Colorado Rising that the mission was to protect the health and safety of communities that were impacted by gas and oil operations, anti-fracking. And so was there for very fulfilling work, right? Yeah. So I was there for a few years and I got this opportunity for Free Speech TV, which is a nonprofit, by the way, independent media company that is supported by donors. So check us out on freespeech.org. And it was just a natural calling. The job found me basically in the sense that, this was a fusion of my experience in the nonprofit advocacy space and working in commercial media, now working in nonprofit, non-commercial, public interest media. So that's how I found myself here. So it's basically a good fusion, like I said, of my career.
Well, let me tell you, Guy, and I want to speak directly to the audience about this because if you heard what Rafael said, he left corporate media to come to nonprofit, independent media. I want to say something, Rafael. This is for you, sir. A lot of folks look at, wait, what? You went from the big thing to come to the that is what good, positive altruism is all about. We have to make a change, and we can only make a change if some of us are willing to step up. And I want to first shake your hand and give you a thank you because we need people who are willing to do that. And you put your foot into the door.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you know what? It was timely, right? I was actually loving working in the environmental advocacy world and advocating for those communities that were being impacted by the financial and the environmental impacts of oil and gas. Right. So with that being said, it catapulted me to this position. Is the light too high?
No, I'll clean it up. Yeah.
Okay. All right, because I can't open my eyes now.
Oh yeah. Well, it's amazing.
too bright.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to make
I'm
us
squinting now, man.
Yeah, I'm going to
So-
twist yourself, and
Okay.
we'll get a little change here. There we go.
So as the light shines upon me,
Yeah.
right? No, I saw the light. I saw
You
the
saw the light,
I saw
yeah.
the light. I did. Relatively speaking, so I thought, with the experience I had working in commercial TV and commercial radio, really gave me the foundation to, elevate a station like Free Speech TV, because,
Right.
we're a small station with a big reach. We reached approximately 30 million people.
Wow.
We're on all VOD streaming service, mostly all VOD streaming services
Right.
like Amazon Fire, Roku. We're on Dish Network. We're on DirecTV, Apple Plus, Apple
Right.
iOS. So, we have a lot of potential.
Right.
And, the hire was intentional. We are looking to, elevate our game in the anti-racism space.
Right.
We're looking to become a multi-ethnic network that touches on the issues
Right.
that impact people of color
Right.
through an anti-racist lens.
Right.
Right. So, we're looking to develop those programs within our programming, right?
Right.
And documentaries. So, a great time for Free Speech TV when it comes to that. But we do need help. Right? We're a nonprofit.
Right.
So we're seeking help. We have a strong donor base. But we're seeking help from everybody around the country that are Free Speech TV fans, or if you're not if you don't know about Free Speech TV, check us out. We have some great programs. Democracy Now! Is one of our
Right.
marquee programs,
It's-
right?
yeah.
Tom Hartman, David Pacman. So strong lineup, but we want to strengthen those lineups also with the topics that impact people of color, with talent that are people of color. And that's why they brought me on board, right?
You know what is
Just-
interesting is you didn't even give me a chance to ask you that question. You were just ready to tell me
Yeah.
what Free Speech TV is all about. And
Yeah.
you know what? I've been following Free Speech TV, and I have personally. I loved it. First of all, Tom Hartman is one of
Yes.
my favorite. Amy Goodman, I love Amy Goodman. I know both of them, and Tom comes on to Politics Done Right frequently.
Yes.
But it did need a little bit more diversity, not because those who were there had any issues, but just because you need that perspective. And
Absolutely.
tell me a little bit about what you intend to do about that.
So on that note, yes, the perspective, in media companies tends to be somewhat singular at times, right? So
Right.
that includes, not just what's going on the broadcast side, but also on the digital media side.
Right.
So my goal is to bring a variety of those perspectives.
Right.
Not only on our on-air programming, but
Right.
also our digital programming on our
Right.
websites, on our social media, because singular perspectives. After a while, corporate media has departments,
Right.
that deal with this, but the perspectives get really singular, right? So
Right.
we need perspectives from, the Black community, Latino community, Latinx community, Indigenous communities,
Right.
Our Asian communities. So that's the goal, is to ensure that we're kind of promoting the experience,
Right.
right, of the impacts of the issues of the day. Right. So for us, it's a huge undertaking, because obviously, there might be some resistance even within progressive movements,
Right.
as we know.
Yes.
That, when it comes
Tell
to
me a little bit about that.
I could give you an example about that is in the environmental space,
Right.
and it's a strong progressive movement. It's a very white dominant,
Right.
progressive movement. And now that more people of color get involved in the environmental space, there's been some friction,
Yeah.
resistance at times, because I was even told this is our movement. Really, yeah. At one point when I was working in that space,
Right.
and as a part indigenous man,
Right.
they're exploiting our lands that are
Right.
occupied, right,
Right,
on these
right.
occupied lands. That's where I took it to heart. I was like, this is something where, yes, you're impacting, the environmental impacts of gas and oil.
Right.
Impacts everybody,
Right.
not just people of color, but
Right.
the ones that are impacted most are obviously people of color.
And it seems
So-
like it's always the case, that those are the people that have gotten the brunt of our industrialization, the brunt of our progress has always been on the hell. The success of this country was on the backs of
Black Americans, or the ancestors
the
of
ancestor,
the slaves.
exactly
Yes,
right. So I
absolutely.
mean, you take a look at that, and not only that, because yes, the documented slaves were black folk, but we also know that the indigenous people were held as well. We also know that the Chinese who built the Pacific Railroad as indentured servants themselves, sort of, I mean, might as well have been that way. So it is endemic to the system.
Absolutely, and the contributions that our communities have made to this country, right? And often not acknowledged as they should be.
Right.
In the case of reparations for the Black community,
right?
The immigrant populations that the border was moved for us. We were there the whole time.
Exactly.
So the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border, right?
Exactly.
So and I'm preaching to the choir here, but at the end of the day,
actually, I want to correct that. You're preaching to the space, that needs that information, and that is why I think Rafael, that it is so important to have a general manager like yourself running the company with the expectation that boards or whoever else, or that bring the funding, the developers, etc., acknowledge that it is time. I mean, you're not trying to take away anything from anybody.
Absolutely,
you're trying to integrate everybody into a system that belongs to us all.
At the end of the day, I had a board member that's here today at Netroots. The way he put it, it's TV for freedom fighters and freedom lovers.
There you go.
At the end of the day, that's the direction we want to go. Is have a network and a media outlet that's going to be for people like us.
Right.
That we're freedom lovers and we're freedom fighters for the good of all society, right? But my role was, and my hire is intentional.
Right.
It's intentional in the sense that, in corporate media, there's very few people like me in positions of power and authority within these structures, right?
Right.
And the dismantling of these structures that we're trying to promote as well, right? Through that anti-racist lens and dissolve, if you will, the white supremacist structures that have so much, as
yes,
impacted media. The other thing is truth telling, right?
Yes.
We want to be a truth telling outlet that's going to speak the truth, and speak truth to power.
Exactly. I think that is so important because all the stories and fairy tales that and not having the truth. Our country, in my opinion, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I think our country is in trouble today, not because I need to adjust this a little bit more. I think our country is in trouble not because people are bad, but because people are ill-informed, people are lied to, and having a channel that we can get penetration that's actually there as an alternative that we can actually say, Free Speech TV says this. And guess what? As I do on Politics Done Right, today I just got through with my program, and one of somebody comes on and they say, green energy is going to get us all killed. Great. I didn't go ahead and say, you crazy SOB. I said, could you please explain to me so that I can understand how is green energy going to get us killed?
Right, exactly. And the point I want to drive here, Gilberto, is that those that don't see our perspective, or those that don't believe our perspective, I think we need to get away from attacking them.
Right.
We need to embrace them and educate them. Right. Not compete in a sense.
Exactly.
Because I think that's where America, the divide in America has led us to where we're at today.
Right.
And so I believe we really need to focus on, again, educating folks that are falling victim to this misinformation, disinformation, right? So I think one of the key elements is ensuring that we're not being actually, and counter to our beliefs, we're not being exclusive of them. We should include them, right? And we should be able to ensure that they're being educated properly and follow up, and get away from the tribal way of thinking and the tribal dynamic that we're actually living under right now. So crazy time to be alive.
Como los dos somos latinos, voy a hacer dos oraciones en español. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros aquí en Politics Done Right. Dime lo que vas a hacer con Free Speech TV. ¿Dónde piensas llevarlo? ¿Cómo vas a agregar
Pues sí.
a otra clase de gente que no estamos acostumbrados a verles en la pantalla?
Sí, pues muchas gracias por la pregunta, pero mira, el enfoque de Free Speech TV va a ser una cadena inclusiva que nosotros vamos a promover todas las temas que impactan nuestras comunidades, ¿verdad? Entonces, para nosotros es algo muy importante y que nos exige para tener un lugar donde está el pueblo, más bien, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Entonces, para nosotros es algo que vamos a enfrentar. Tenemos nuestros obstáculos, obvio, ¿verdad? Pero, en fin, tenemos que estar preparados también y hacer el ejemplo.
Claro.
Hacer el ejemplo, porque las generaciones que nos sigue, necesitamos a prepararlos, ¿verdad? Para que se puedan activar ellos y movilizar en estos esfuerzos, ¿verdad? Y espero que esta cadena nos ayuda, tú sabes, a lanzar ese movimiento.
Te voy a decir algo. Teniendo a una persona como usted ahí siendo el gerente
General, sí.
general
Sí.
Free Speech TV.
Sí, señor.
Eso será un cambio necesario. Así que felicitaciones
muchas
por
gracias,
el nuevo trabajo.
muchas gracias.
Y estoy esperando mucho de lo que vas a proveer.
Y le quiero decir de Free Speech TV también le quiero apoyar a usted. Entrevistamos a nuestro servidor aquí en Free Speech TV. Entonces, conéctase con Free Speech TV, freespeech.org, o nos puedes ver en cualquier de las cadenas de suscripción como Amazon Fire. Estamos en Sling TV, Direct TV, Dish Network, y los demás puedes investigar e ingresar freespeech.org.
Let me finish in English.
Okay, switch. Yeah.
We switch
That's
back
how
to-
we do,
That's
right?
how, that's how we do. Anyway, look, let me tell you, first of all, congratulations
Thank
on
you
the
very
new
much.
job. Just listening, we had spoken several times, and there's much that you've said here
Yes, sir.
that you hadn't said before. Something that all of us listening here have to be impressed with.
Thank you.
Also, not only impressed, but thankful that Free Speech TV is going to be taken to a new place. Not that Free Speech TV wasn't a great place before,
Right.
but you're taking it to new heights by making sure it is very inclusive.
And let me be clear, it's not just myself. We have a strong team. I mean, we have a strong team of broadcast professionals, nonprofit professionals, a team that has bought into our mission. So the thing is, for me, that's a luxury because this team is super strong. The work that they're doing to elevate free speech's distribution and our content is amazing. Not to mention, as a nonprofit, our development efforts
Right.
through our donation efforts, right? So again, I got to give credit where credit is due. Is the strong Free Speech TV that keeps us on the air.
Rafael
Muchas gracias.
Espinosa, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so
Gracias por la
kindly for this
oportunidad.
interview.
Le agradezco mucho.
Absolutely.
Muchas gracias.
I'd like to play a piece from a journalist. This journalist is with The Atlantic, and he said something that I want all of you to hear first. And then we'll go ahead and address some further issues on Donald Trump having all this, on not only what Donald Trump has as far as the spy data, etc., but also what he has done to a sect in this country. Let's listen to this and then take it on the other side.
I think if the president hadn't given this speech, he would have been derelict in his duty as the chief executive in his constitutional duty to defend the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution is under attack. It's under attack from an organized, from the majority of an organized political party. And for him not to acknowledge that reality in public would have been a dereliction of his duty. But I almost I thought the attempt to divide out the MAGA Republicans, I understood why he had to do it. That was a political formula to say, I understand that there are still somewhere out there centrist Republicans, but the MAGA Republicans have taken over the institutional Republican Party and its elected members. There are, when he talks about working with Republicans, I think it's a tough sell to say, who are they? Who are these, rational and reasonable Republicans left that you're working with? And I think, to hit that point, to say, look, this isn't This is not, and he did say this, these are not normal times. This is not a normal political movement. And then there was a kind of a digression in things like prescription drugs and other stuff that I think probably didn't need to be in the speech. But to kind of pound the lectern and say, as he did when he said, vote, 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 because this is not just another petty policy disagreement. This is for all the marbles.
Now, here's what's important. There are many who are saying by the president talking about MAGA Republicans that somehow he's attacking an ideology just because it's different than his own, which isn't something we should do, right? There are conservatives and there are progressives. Conservatives think a certain way. They want things done a certain way. Progressives want things done another way. Let the people decide. Let the people vote and decide. What the president went against, or what he called the MAGA Republicans, are those, and he also called those same leaders of that MAGA Republican group, he also refers to them as semi-fascist. I don't even know why he put the semi in front of there. I call them outright fascists, right? Because of what they want. They want to rule undemocratically for the things that they want to do, and they want to harm those who disagree with them. It's that simple. That's a statement of fact. There are MAGA Republicans who are the ones that kind of follow Trump, and then there are the leaders who are the real evil ones that will cause these people to do wrong because people are influenced by their leaders. And that's the only reason Donald Trump got the second most amount of votes in American elective presidential history. We have to accept that. Donald Trump got a lot of votes. And that's why Nichols here says, why did he really make such a distinction about MAGA Republicans and Republicans itself? Because there is that distinction. But yes, there's still a good 80% of Republicans that, even though they're not fascist like their leaders, they are willing to follow these guys because the hate that have been created for the left, the false hate, the caricature that they've made of the left. These people are saying, well, we better go with these guys because those leftists are even worse. That is what we have to fight. That is what we have to work with. So the president was not going against a conservative ideology. Let's take that one step further, because I want to read something from one of our regulars here, Daniel Ledo. He says, Biden declared war on millions of his fellow Americans last night, criminalized ideology, and gave the entire executive branch a new enemy to pursue. Historic to say the least, and Egberto is ignoring it. Egberto, do you agree with Biden? Yes, but Biden didn't go as far as I would. I think you meant, are you ideological and political for a clear and present danger to American democracy? Yes, the MAGA Republican Party, that portion that's fascist, they are a clear and present danger to America. So the answer to that is yes. If so, what's the plan to combat this enemy from within? The president gave the answer to that in his speech as well. Vote, vote, and vote. Make sure that the vote is so overwhelming against MAGA that it is no doubt that the winners are, in fact, those that are anti-MAGA. Not that progressives win, not that Democrats win, but anti-fascist, anti-MAGA wins. That is the answer the president said. At the same time, he says violence is never an option. Never an option. The only people that are speaking about violence is MAGA Republicans, who say, even many have said, we just think we may have to pick up arms. You will never hear that from the left. You will never hear that from moderate Republicans. And let's go one step further to prove it's not ideological. All of the very conservative Republicans have left the party or have spoken out against the party. Starting with the one of the newest leaders in Cheney, in Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is more conservative than Mona McDonald. the leader of the Republican, the RNC, than Romney, right? She is much more conservative. We have most of your most conservative Republicans leaving the party because they understand that Donald Trump, the corrupt, the evil, the person with no soul, the person that's a thief, the person that's a thug, they understand that this one guy has been a cancer to that party. And yes, I do not hold that against, I have friends that peer pressure still works with them. And will that stop them from being my friend? No, I will work with them because you know what's a true friend? Do you know what's someone who really cares about you? Somebody who really cares about you says the following: I understand that you're doing something wrong right now, but you know what? I'll be there for you. I understand that you are doing something. I'm going to try to change you. I'm going to try to open the doors for you. I'm going to try to have you see the light. Somebody who doesn't care about you, somebody who doesn't care about your humanity, they'll just let you go. Go do the crap that you're doing. Go kill yourself. Go do that. Somebody who cares about you, invest in you. Invest in you not only necessarily financially, but invest in you morally. Invest in you spiritually. Invest in you however they can. That is real care. You want to know the reason why I don't do things like, just throw people under the bus? That's why I wrote this. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbor. I could change right-wing to a lot of other things. But it is about caring. So all the MAGA folks, that even those that are my followers, you're not going to lose me as somebody who cares about you just for the heck of it. Because you know what? If you really care about where we're at, and we know that nobody's going anywhere, we care about setting things right. So here's the deal. The nation's poorest state used welfare money to pay Brett Favre for speeches he never made. The state auditor says $70 million in federal welfare funds went to Favre, a volleyball complex, and a former pro wrestler in a scandal that has rocked Mississippi. If you go to Jackson, Mississippi has been begging for funds, few $1 million, decade after decade. They can't get clean water. They cannot get clean water in Jackson, Mississippi, the largest city in Mississippi. There are pictures on the internet where the governor of Mississippi has a big, shiny tanker truck with fresh water in front of his mansion in Jackson, Mississippi, while the people in Jackson, Mississippi don't have clean water. That is what we call MAGA Republican policies. The mayor of Jackson has been begging. The infrastructure in Jackson has been crumbling. All you people who moved out of Jackson with white flight, he's been begging. All these people left Jackson, right, to live in the suburbs. Suburbs that have new water plants subsidized by all these people in Jackson. Because all the corporations and major corporations and all these guys are stationed in the state capital, Jackson, Mississippi. But they don't have clean drinking water, and the restaurants out there are having to buy their water and at the same time having to pay for the water, the dirty water that comes through the taps. Mississippi, MAGA Republican policies. From a third world country, you don't see that. I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Guatemala, I've been to El Salvador, I live in Panama, born in Panama, been to Jamaica, been to Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, been to Mexico, you remember. In Mexico, you couldn't, they would tell you, Montezuma's revenge. Don't drink the water. And guess what? You can't go to Jackson, Mississippi and drink the water. It won't give you Montezuma revenge. It'll kill you. Here in the United States of America, this exceptional country, you can't drink the water in many of its cities. And you know, there's something familiar with the looks of all those cities where you can't drink the water. What's that city in Michigan again? And drink the water because they decided the clean, clear Lake Michigan was not good enough for it. Was too good for its people. So they made you drink out of the Detroit River, polluted with all kinds of lead, etc. What's going on here? And now we find out that $17 million that should have gone to the Flint, Michigan. Thank you, Alistair Waters. $70 million that should have gone to the people most in need because of a state that doesn't take care of its people, because of a state whose policies are based on a type of arcaneness that kills. And who takes the money that all of us that pay a lot of taxes, that money came from the federal government. And what did the MAGA Republicans do in Mississippi? They stole the money. They stole welfare money. They themselves. You know, they always talk about the rich, the wealthy. Brett Favre, millionaire football player, gets $1 million for doing nothing. And you dare look at those guys in the streets and say, get a job? You didn't earn it? While we have Brett Favre getting $1 million for doing a speech that he never did. Do you guys get the evil within? I want you to think about that, folks. $70 million, and the people who reap the rewards of that $70 million are rich people. I want to put that into some context. Everybody talks about, well, guess what, man? We have these infrastructure projects and all of that kind of stuff. The only reason the portion of the infrastructure remember, the infrastructure bill was divided into two: the human infrastructure and the hardware infrastructure, meaning building roads, etc., and all those good things, right? Check this out, folks. I want you to really understand this. Why did Republicans say it was okay to pass that infrastructure project, but not the human one, the other one? Because they did exactly what Favre and the other Mississippi Republicans have been doing: stealing. It's the same thing they do in Iraq. Why they like wars? Because you know what? With wars come a lot of welfare money from the government so that they can go and hire a lot of people from third world countries to serve the troops. And as they serve the troops on 5 cents on the dollar, they pocket the rest, the wealthy. Like I've always told you folks, you sit down and think there's something about the wealthy. Most of the wealthy just make great thieves, great thugs in ties. It is so important for you to understand what I'm saying here, folks. It is so important. Last night, I did a whole lot of blogging, but most importantly, I watched two programs. The first one was The Wave. I think it was one of our most premier supporters, Bridge MCP, said, Egberto, you have to watch this. It's about fascism. And it was about how a teacher converted kids into Hitler-type loving people without much effort. But the second one I watched was The Civil War. It's a documentary on CNN that I've watched before, but this must be a segment that I missed. I want to play this segment, but before I play the segment, I want to preface something. I want you to look at that guy from the context of how entitled he felt for himself. I want you to also note how the disregard that he has for humanity. And I say humanity except for who he is. I want you to listen to that in detail. This is one segment that got me so irate at his tonality, his tone, and his way of thinking that I couldn't continue blogging on a specific issue. Because listen to this piece, and when we're done, we'll come back on the other side, because one has to understand that these guys have got to be made irrelevant very, very, very soon. Check this out.
James McGill McGill, he settled this farm almost 200 years ago, and I felt like I followed in his footsteps. My wife raised the children. All I ever did was work. Of course, now the federal government took my farm, so I had it financed with federal government Farmers Home Administration. They wouldn't redo my loans. During the war and Reconstruction, people in the South lost everything. Well, I can empathize with them. It made me mad, and I could understand why they were mad. And it's been 150 years, and these people are still mad in the South about it. It is wrong for the federal government to dictate to the states what they should or should not do. Ever since the war, no one's property has been secured. There's a lot of talk of reparations for slaves. My great-great-grandfather, Abraham Lincoln, emancipated the slave. He didn't get paid for the war to prevent Southern independence. Changed our country for the worse.
Do you think the war changed the country for the worse? Does it?
I do understand parts of what my father is speaking on, because I feel that way, that the government is too big and has too much power. It's an invasion. But how long would it have taken to free the slaves? How long would it have taken for them to realize that slavery is wrong?
Do you think slavery left an imprint on the mindset of people in America?
I'm saying the war left more of an imprint. That's my personal opinion.
For black and white?
Yes.
So you feel like the war itself was bigger aggression than slavery?
Yes.
It feels like you're dismissing the experience of millions of enslaved people. It feels like you're not seeing what they experienced at the hands of the people who were enslaving them. I mean, how is treating people as property not a greater horror?
Well, my feelings was that it was legal. It was a settled way of order. They had laws that they had to live up to, enforced on them, and treat them like civilly. I don't hate James McGill, but I just want our schools and universities to stop teaching our children to hate our Southern ancestors. They don't deserve that.
Now, the entitlement that this guy feels, I want to get on something technical first. You notice he's pissed off because he got a loan from the federal government, and evidently he was not that good of a farmer, because evidently he defaulted on the loan and lost the land that his forefathers stole from somebody else, right? So, I mean, he wasn't a darn good farmer, even having lived on stolen land and stolen land that he all but got for free, and he couldn't do something with it. And we have black farmers all over this country. Couldn't get loans from the federal government, had to do their own farming without any one of these loans to make them better farmers. But he got it. He was of the right hue to get it. Now, then the belief that they have a reason to be angry because somebody is taking their property. Now, they are living on land that was stolen from indigenous people. They are living on lands that they've signed treaty with people to say, hey, if you give us this land, we won't blow your head off, and then we'll leave you alone in these other places. And then after that, we break the treaties and we come and take the land anyway. These are the people who are living on these lands as big farms and ranches across Mississippi and Texas, etc., etc., etc. And they feel that somehow somebody is doing them such a huge wrong because they took something away from them without thinking that they took something away from somebody else. And then the kicker here, when they ask, do you feel that the Civil War was about slavery, the slave aggression? Yes. And then he says, but, they're talking about wanting reparations. Nobody gave my great-granddaddy anything when they took his property away. Human beings, slaves, when they took his property, nobody gave him reparations. The inhumanity, the evil within this guy, even the son understood it. The son said, I don't like big government, all of that. The standard Republican Southern methodologies, right? But then he said, how long would they have taken for these guys to realize that slavery is wrong, that holding another human being in bondage is wrong? How long would it have taken these Southern folks, including my daddy? People, we have to extricate. These guys, a guy like that never changes. He feels entitled to his to a superiority he tries to hold on to by force. That's what he feels. I am superior. Therefore, the indigenous folks that I stole their land for, I earned it. And anybody trying to take it back or take some back and give it back, we have reasons to be mad. We have reasons to be upset. And you see those slave guys? Oh, no. Nobody, no reparations for them, because after all, nobody gave my granddaddy reparations. And look at me. I'm a lousy farmer who, because of my hue, should have been just fine. But nobody gave me, they didn't give me that handout that I deserved. We have to extricate that thought process. We have to make guys like him irrelevant. Good. I listened to the Sun, and I listened to what the Sun was saying between the lines. And that should give us all hope. Because while the Sun is following the conservative ideology, even the Sun acknowledges the evil within his daddy. How long would it have taken you to understand that slavery is wrong? Extricate, make these guys irrelevant, and never back down. Never give them the benefit of the doubt. Too many progressives are trying to give folks like this the benefit of the doubt. None. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join. Back at the University of Texas, I remember folks telling me, oh, you're an import. You're from a banana republic. I also remember them saying all kinds of things about the quality of life in Mexico. Montezuma revenge. You're going to go drink the water in Mexico. And then what's going to happen to you? You're going to get sick. And then today I had to listen to this.
You can shower or bathe. Please make sure in the shower that your mouth's not open, because again, you do not want to ingest the water. Please make sure in the shower that your mouth's not open, because again, you do not want to ingest the water.
Now, let me tell you, being in my little banana republic in Sabanitas, Colón, República de Panamá, or I should say Banana República de Panamá, I never once had to boil what came out of the tap. I never had to take a shower with my mouth closed. Look, folks, if you want to understand conservative economic policies that affect your everyday life, Jackson, Mississippi is a perfect example, as well as that city in Michigan that had lead in its water because the Great Lakes was too good a water source for the people in that city. So they went to the Detroit River. Folks, let's start getting things right. Let's start making sure those who owe taxes pay the taxes so that we can rebuild our infrastructure, so that America doesn't devolve into a third world country. Well, actually, it would be fourth world, because even the third world countries, I don't think they're boiling the waters out of their taps. We can do better.
Welcome to a live edition from Politics Done Right at Netroots Nation 2022. Today, once again, we bring you one of the great activists out here. We have Chuck Panacchio out of Pennsylvania, right? Welcome to Politics Done Right. And you are the leader, the director of One Pair States, correct?
Correct. OnePairStates.org.
OnePairStates.org. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into One Pair States.
Sure. Yeah. Great pleasure to be with you, Egberto, here in Pittsburgh. I'm living here now, actually. Sharpsburg, just across the river. Great working class town. Really sweet people in this area. It's wonderful to be at Netroots Nation, to network, get to know other folks, and building the power that we need to win.
Right.
So One Pair States is it's an organization that has been around since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
We formalized our group as a C4 organization, as a political organization, 4.5 years ago. And we're geared up to winning universal health care at the state level. We'd like to get it adopted 1, 2, 3, 4 states, model it as a successful program, and then go national with it. Similar to the way Canada got to single payer.
One province at a time.
That's right. Started in Saskatchewan.
Right.
All the other provinces looked at it, jealously said, we want to do that too.
Right.
Healthcare for everybody.
Right.
Cheaper, better, helps the economy, helps people. So it's really a very powerful movement that we've got involved here.
You know, it's interesting because we're behind the curve. You know, one of the things I think with our country is that we have a tendency, because we have this innate feeling of exceptionalism,
right.
We think we have to be the originators of everything that's good, when all over the OECD, that's these industrialized nations, we've seen that they all have some form of one pair, single pair system in some form or the other.
That's right.
That is successful. And, you know, yesterday, Chuck, I interviewed a person from Canada who naturalized American and moved back in his older years to Canada for the healthcare. And I asked him specifically if their system was better. And he said, I wouldn't talk about systems being better. As an engineer, we just speak about the different issues. And then I said, how do you judge better? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, I judge better based on the outcome of the population in general. And every single of these countries have not just a small better outcome health-wise, but economic-wise for all their citizens. So the job that you're doing is very important in educating folks doing it. So what is your plan as far as getting out there and making sure that this comes from the bottom up? Because the top down, it'll never happen.
Right. Well, we do need to create a mass movement, and that involves connecting all generations, all issues, and all policies, social justice policies. So it's not just healthcare justice, actually, that we're talking about.
Right.
That's our lead issue. But it also has to be about health justice.
Mm-hmm.
And health involves policing, it involves climate, it involves quality jobs, neighborhoods, access to quality food, education, all issues. We need to bridge all of these. I call it bridging our people, our politics, and our policies, the 3 Ps. People, politics, and policies. And that's the pathway to achieving justice for all, true justice for all. And that's really the promise of America that we have not been living up to, especially over the last 50 plus years when I've been organizing. I've been doing this work for 50 years.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second because I want our audience to also know that you ran for Senate here in Pennsylvania, correct?
Right.
And so this isn't something new for you. You've been out there reaching out to people with trying to establish good policy for quite some time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in running, I ran very much a Bernie-style campaign,
Mm-hmm.
Before people were familiar with Bernie
Right.
Sanders. But I was a Bernie crap before it was a thing.
Right.
And running an issue-centered campaign got people very excited.
Right.
We created a grassroots movement, not only around around my Senate race, but that evolved into what is now Healthcare for All Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
which then evolved into One Pair States,
Mm-hmm.
which is a coupling of all of the state organizations, 22 in all,
Right.
that are working on achieving universal health care at the state level. And right now, the Northwest is where the best opportunity is, really. Washington and Oregon.
Washington, Oregon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very
And what
exciting.
other states are you working in? I know Pennsylvania is one of them.
Oh,
Even though
gosh.
your Congress, House of Representatives kind of, well, I think you guys, do you call them House of Representatives or House of Delegates here in Pennsylvania?
It's the state house.
Okay, the state house, yeah.
Yeah.
I know maybe a bit difficult.
Representatives, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love what you just said about you can't just work on one issue when we're talking about the well-being of people, the healthcare of people. You have to talk about all issues. And in that light, I think you have established a new summit, the Intergenerational Justice Summit, that's coming up on August 27th.
Right.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. The Intergenerational Justice Summit, it's not a one-off event. This is it'll be a recurring event every 3 months or so.
Right.
And right now it's beginning informally among, you talked about bottom up.
Right.
It's got to be organic. We have to bring people into the room who can actually see the vision that we have, which again is connecting all of our issues, our people, and our policies. And so this intergenerational summit is designed to bring in a whole diversity of folks across generations and race, class, gender, geography, and bring them all into the same room to have this conversation. And it all centers on shared values.
Express what you think about what do you express as shared values? What are shared values?
It's about love. It's about compassion. It's about caring for each other. Really, it starts there. I mean, I reference it as radical hospitality,
right?
Radical hope,
right?
And radical love. And that means hospitality is our hearts are open and we're welcoming of everyone in the conversation. We're not judgmental. We're here to listen,
right?
Intentionally listen to people and their concerns. And what ends up happening is the conversation always swings back around to, wow, I didn't realize that you had those issues, those concerns. But then suddenly you realize the connection, the human connection is the most powerful thing that we have going for us. So radical hospitality, radical hope in a time right now when we have to admit, that we're in a world of crisis.
Right.
We have got to admit this. But in order to overcome that, we have to think outside of our sort of traditional boundaries. Conventional politics are just not working. Our institutions are broken in this country. We have to figure out a way to build mass movement and power to get our political leaders moving in the right direction. And if they're not moving, we need to replace them.
Right.
So, and in doing so, we have to be creative, very creative. So I'm really thrilled at the work that's being done, especially among younger folks who are willing to engage in occupation efforts to actually sometimes shame politicians into doing the right thing. And it does work.
Love, compassion. I love that you said that, hope, but I like the love and compassion so very much because what our economic system, what we have been taught by so many because they have ulterior motives, is those are things on the side, that things have to work the way they're working right now, without spirit, without heart, without thinking about humanity, if you will.
That's right.
And that you start. I mean, that just kind of warmed me when I said, what are our values, and you say, we have to look at love. We have to look at compassion. Can you really hurt somebody you love? Can you really hurt somebody or purposefully somebody you care about? No, and that's what's missing in.
Absolutely.
That is what's missing in our system. We've been teaching people not to care about others' humanity.
That's right. I mean, this nation was founded in an effort to create something of a balance between democracy and the capitalism.
Right.
But capitalism is crushing our democracy right now. Predatory capitalism. The oligarchs are in charge. The billionaire class, they own the political system effectively.
Right.
And, it was almost a miracle that we were able to get the legislative accomplishments we were last week. And this is really, it's a challenge, but it's an exciting moment too. Out of crisis comes opportunity. And I think everyone needs to take a hard look in the mirror. We look to others to be our leaders. We need to start looking in the mirror at ourselves. We need to be the leaders.
Yes.
We need to be the leaders.
And that's why first of all I love being here at Netroots. That's why I love speaking to folks like you, because again, you are sort of laying that path that even a lot of folks in the younger generation can see. They can see, oh, these older folks are seeing a lot of what we've been trying to aspire for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is great. So tell us a little bit more about how people can be a part of this Intergenerational Justice Summit?
Well, all the information's at onepairstates.org. And it's a virtual event, and we have a Zoom room capacity of 1,000 people.
Right.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Yeah. So, people who believe in the concept of universal transformative justice, which is delivering what we need, not just what we want, but what we need, just fundamentally to go forward as a society, to heal ourselves as a society, and to believe again in the American promise. That's really fundamentally what this is about. But connecting younger people, in particular, the millennial generation, Gen Z generation, are the most progressive generation in our history.
Right.
And yet so many of them are disaffected, feel like the system is broken, it's not working for them, and who's to argue with that?
It's not working, and it is broken.
Exactly.
Well, folks, please go to onepairstates.org, onepairstates.org. And yes, Chuck is asking you to visit with them at the summit, but that's a few days. We want you to make onepairstates.org a part of where you visit for us making change. Chuck Panacchio, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
You can listen and or watch Politics Done Right Mondays through Fridays on Facebook Live at facebook.com/politicsdoneright or on YouTube Live at politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Please do not forget to follow me on Twitter for updates. My Twitter handle is @Egberto Willies, @EGBERTOWILLIES. But don't you forget, listen to us live on air at KPFT 90.1 FM on Thursdays at noon and at Fridays at 11 a.m. all Central Time. Please remember to keep your community radio station in your minds. Keep KPFT on your mind. Talk about it. Tell your friends about it. Tell them you know about this station in town, 90.1 FM Houston, that needs your support. That is there to provide that nourishment that we need. KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. Well, folks, that's it for today. You know how I'm going to end this baby. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.